hello, good evening. Um, so, trying something a little different, as you can see. It's bright in here, and I got a new microphone. So, how's it sound? Sound much better? It should. I hope so, because it was at least 3 times more than my last microphone. But luckily, thanks to all my wonderful supporters, I can throw money down on this kind of stuff. So I hope everybody's having a great night and having a happy Friday. Uh, there's a, news wise, it's been very eventful. Minnesota's not as much in the news per se, but it's still kind of like a big focal point because that Somalian fraud thing, it's not going away. It's just not going away. But they want it to. Tim Walz definitely wants it to. But he's not. But he's going away. So that's at least a good thing. The guy's just freaky. Like, I don't know. Just something about Tim Walz just creeps me out. Like, ugh. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, this isn't about Tim Walz tonight. What I wanted to get into is something that is not, it's kind of brought up, but it's not quite talked about as much as I think it should be. So, as you see, all over the place, you hear the F word. Not fuck. Fascism. You hear it all the time. It's always fascist this, fascist that. But those who keep throwing the word fascist around and fascism will never define it. Only thing they ever say about it, it's a right-wing ideology, they say. That's all they're holding on to. So basically, when they say you're a fascist, they're just saying you're right-wing. Like, and then they say, educate yourself. Well, obviously, they haven't educated themselves. That's all they're doing is just saying fascism is just a right-wing ideology. So we're going to look into fascism tonight. And we have a fascist problem in this country. And it's not who they think it is. But we're going to try to turn a mirror to some people who like to turn or to throw the word fascist around and see how that goes. So, let's say hi to the chat. No, let's talk about Minnesota anymore. I've been tired of talking about Minnesota for quite some time. It's just like every week. It's been over a month now, I think. Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you. And I see, open up the moonshine. Enjoy it. Hey, hello. No balls, walls? Yeah, I know. Like, he has absolutely no testosterone. Thanks, teach me about fascism. I'll be happy to, and I'm going to pull up the definitions. We do have a fascism problem. They're called woke leftists. Yes, we are definitely getting to that. All right, so what I want to get into about that. So you're hearing all these, it's predominantly from the left. You know, Trump's a fascist. You know, if you're right of Stalin, basically you're a fascist. I've been called a fascist so many times, and I'm a libertarian. Like, tell me you don't know what a libertarian is without telling me you don't know what a libertarian is. Honestly. And like I said, they can never define it. You go to these protests, you say, what's fascism? Define fascism. And they say, oh, you look it up. They put it on you to look it up. They put it on you to define it. But they're the ones that are protesting against fascism. And like I said, all they can say about it, it's a right-wing ideology. It's right-wing. Right-wing. Okay, then define that further. You're just giving a direction. What is so bad about fascism that you're so up in arms about it? Well, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, fascism is a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime, such as that of the fascisti. I'm not Italian, so don't come for me, that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition. What's that last part sound like? Now, as far as the definition of fascism goes, we definitely already see how the left is implementing fascism. However, what I want to propose is that the modern left has created something of their own. It's in a way a Marxist, fascist sort of monster. Because as this definition, it says that exalts a nation, often race, above the individual. What they're doing above the individual, because they're collectivists, right? They are putting gender, they're putting race, they're putting like disability status, like neurodivergent, and such, and mental illness. Because what I often see is that with the left, it's like an oppression totem. Like there's a totem of oppression. If you are above a certain totem or on the totem pole, you can do no wrong. Those underneath you cannot speak ill against you. Like, for instance, they have race on one, but the races are also leveled. But there's also, gender in there. So if you are a certain race, you can't misgender somebody. They're higher on the totem pole of the oppression status. So they put that totem above the individual. It's all about the collective. That's what they're putting. And that thinking also, as I said, it comes into Marxism, because according to Merriam-Webster, Marxism is the political, economic, and social principles and policies advocated by Marx, a theory and practice of socialism, which a lot of them deny that socialism and Marxism are, different. So it's a theory and practice of socialism, including the labor theory of value, dialectical materialism, the class struggle, and dictatorship of the proletariat until the establishment of a classless society. Now, what I want to argue, this fascism monster, this fascist Marxism monster that the left has created, rather than an autocratic dictatorial leader, what they have gone and done is made what's the quote-unquote proletariat, which, according to the modern left, the proletariat is this oppression totem. So that is what heads, rather than like an autocratic dictator. That is the autocrat. And the collectivism, the collective, is the autocrat, because you go against their think, you go against their consensus on what they have deemed right think. You're out. You're out. They want you even as far as dead, and they will still continue to mock you. So they've really created this monster of some of the worst ideologies. Okay, I'm seeing on X, stream is frozen. Is it still frozen? Is it still frozen, my friends? Anyway, if we're not frozen, let's continue. Let's see. My ancestors left Russia to escape this commie shit. Well, unfortunately, in 2026, it is a conglomerate of Marxism, fascism, all into one monster. Now, what uh, in regards to saying that the collective is the autocrat and how that mixes into the Marxism is because you have the oppressor versus oppressed, okay, and how that is just like one big monster. Like I said, they have really found a way to intertwine Marxism and fascism and make it something completely different. Um, Political scientists need to find something that comes as a certain word for this, because they have taken bits and pieces of fascism and Marxism and put them together in some odd societal monster. Because some of the worst parts that they have decided to take from fascism, for example, is the forcible suppression of opposition. Now, notice whenever I read the definition of fascism, in nowhere in that does it say right wing whatsoever. It doesn't give you any kind of direction at all. Now, there's also a quote underneath the definition of fascism. It said, and this is wonderful, that goes right into my point. At the core of fascism is loyalty to tribe, ethnic identity, religion, tradition, or in a word, nation. Now, modern leftists are not very patriotic. Their loyalty is not to nation. Granted, their loyalty is to crumble the nation, to rebuild it for the revolution. Although they never really propose on how they're going to rebuild it. They just, at this point in time, they're at revolution stage. They're really trying to push a revolution to make it fall. Now, this quote hits it right on the nail about modern leftism being loyalty to tribe. Now, as regards to ethnic identity, that would be to their level of oppression that they want to push. Religion, well, their woke ideology is their religion. And tradition, they don't really have tradition unless you want to count like every June. But nation, that can be completely erased. Now, there's another quote underneath that says there are differences between Italian fascism, German Nazism, and their various nationalist descendants. Now, the modern left is anything but nationalist. Nationalism is seen as an icky word. It is seen as something that's bad. But that's part of their trying to bring down the nation to rebuild it in the image that they want. So if you want to bring a nation down, you shame those who treasure the nation. Because if you treasure the nation, you want to keep it. You want to keep it solid. You want to keep it strong. But if you're looking to destroy it, you don't want to have any pride in it. You don't want anyone to take any sort of pride. You want all morale and belief in the nation to just fall and falter. So you shame the nationalists. You paint nationalists as if they're bigoted or xenophobic. But nationalism at its core is just pride in your nation. Now, there are different kinds of nationalism. Like there's Christian nationalism, which is wanting, the nation essentially to be, fully Christian. There's white nationalism, which is a race-based form of nationalism. But nationalism by itself is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, there are some libertarian purists, I will say, that consider nationalism to be love of the state. I disagree. I believe you can still love your nation and hate your government. I think I'm proof of that. I am patriotic as fuck, but I hate my government with a burning passion. So, I will say, yeah, I am a nationalist. I'm not a Christian nationalist. I'm not a white nationalist, which would be silly because I'm Latina. So the left doesn't have any sort of nationalism. They have no identity with that. Their identity is in their identity politics. Now, the stage that they're at right now, like I said, is revolution. Right now, what they want to do is they want to try to find a way to oppress their opposition, which they would never use the word that they're oppressing anybody, because they will hate their opposition, dehumanize their opposition, justify political violence against their opposition with the excuse that their opposition is hateful. However, what is it they are doing themselves? Hating. In fact, they are hating with such a burning passion that they are excusing political violence, which it's self-reflection is not really a strong point of the left. We all know that. So, not frozen anymore. Do I keep freezing? Oh. I wonder if it's my internet or what. Anyway. So we have a fascism problem. But it's like a pseudo-fascism that is a monster with Marxist elements to it. And it's really troubling, because a lot of these groups, what they do is they protest fascism. They call Trump and all his supporters and everybody else rest on fascists, but they behave like fascists. They behave like fascists, and their form of fascism is inserting Marxist elements into it, because their Marxist element is that whole oppression, woke politics, oppressor versus oppressed. Let's see. Let's pull some comments up here. The entire left has this holier than thou entitlement issue and don't live in reality. Exactly. So this pseudo made up reality that they live in, and that is to help them further their idea of revolution. If they don't live in reality, then they're able to continue to push their woke narrative. If they don't have the narrative, then they cannot continue to build and continue this revolution that they're trying so hard to do. Because facts don't care about your feelings, but facts do not support their narratives whatsoever. So if you have, say, ICE, for example, they're saying they're ripping people out of their homes, and they're taking kids, like jailing and 5-year-old kids. That gets people worked up. Okay, they're targeting people's emotions, because that's going to start revolution. That's going to get people in the streets. That's going to get people protesting and going. But reality, which a lot of them know what the reality is, ICE did not detain that 5-year-old child. They were making sure that child had someone looked after him, because his dad took off, abandoned him. So you cannot live in reality if it conflicts the narrative, if you want to have your agenda, put in motion. They cannot have this revolution if they don't have people behind it, if they don't have people worked up enough to follow in it. Because you talk to any sort of critically online leftist, the fascism problem is from the right, and the MAGA people are just absolute mean demons, and they're just so hateful, and they will just kill anybody different than them. But honestly, the violence is not coming from the right, really. And I'm saying this as a libertarian. I don't see the MAGA people behaving the way the left is saying they are, because they're not. This is outside looking in. The MAGA people are not behaving like, super hateful and whatnot. But here's the thing about what they consider hate. They consider words violence. So if you consider words violence, then that will give them any excuse to deploy actual violence. Now, in regards to, words, yeah, I see MAGA people, have some choice words with leftists all the time and, say things that a leftist would deem to be hateful. I see that all the time. We have freedom of speech. But words are not violence. Like misgendering someone or saying a racial slur, that's not actual violence. But they will use that as justification to harm you. Ask Charlie Kirk. Oh, well, you can't now because they found it justified to off the poor man, and they celebrated it. They're still celebrating it. It's disgusting. And all over words. Because Marxism requires violence to impose its rules. Exactly. And as just also as that definition of fascism stated, forcible oppression of opposition. Now, anybody who is anybody knows the term cancel culture. The left denies it, but it does exist. And it comes primarily from the left. Now, the right decided to use it against the left because, your enemy gives you a new weapon. Why not? Like, for example, when after Charlie Kirk died, people fired from their jobs for that. Celebrating an assassination, though, does seem kind of icky and like a dangerous person that you'd be that violent. But I digress. But trying to get somebody canceled for what they say. Cancel culture itself is a form of censorship. That is a form of forcible suppression of opposition. Now, what a lot of leftists don't realize is that despite the fact that you have alternative people, goths, punks, metalheads, and whatnot, despite the fact that they think they're anti-establishment, that they think they are, individuals and free thinking, they all, if they're on the left, of course, they all are pro-collectivist. Because what they don't understand is that all of them are expendable to each other, in the sense that as soon as one of them goes against any other thought, and if they don't beg and apologize profusely, if they mess up, they're out. They're out. They're absolutely out. The left does not forgive, and they do not forget. And that's part of that suppression of the opposition. Because if you don't continually keep people down that went against the groupthink, then they're going to continue to think that, oh, I can just come back later. I can just be redeemed. No, it's not like that. That's what keeps people to stay in this groupthink. And that's what keeps people trapped. I'm sure you have so many people who are on the left who don't agree that men can become women, that don't agree that men should be in women's prisons, that don't agree that DEI is a good thing, but they'll never say it. They will never admit it, at least not to their other leftist friends. So you have people parroting the same things that they might not even believe in, but they will never dare go against it, because as soon as they do, they know they're out. Like The Sopranos. You're out. You're out. More like the cancel culture claim. Exactly. They really are. They attack themselves. They do. Now, granted, the right does. There's certainly some drama right now going on with some right-wing influencers. So the right and the left both, are total Ouroboroses. They both just kind of eat themselves. However, the left is a lot more ruthless with it. The right pulls the moral thing, general morals. But the left partakes in sabotaging your entire character when they do it. Like, your reputation is completely ruined. Your life is ruined, like, completely, not just like online. They ruin your life. That's cancel culture. Saying mean words online, like they've been doing with these right-wing influencers that are currently like going off right now, that's not cancel culture. What the left will do is that will they harass, bring it to offline. That's cancel culture. And that's how they try to keep people in line. Okay. I consider myself a punk, but you and Gak brainwashed me into being goth. Welcome. We have great music. That's how I see it, because goth is about the music. All right. The Simpsons episode, Homer, bad man predicted this 30 years ago. I wouldn't doubt it. The Simpsons like to, predict a lot of things. They probably can't even talk opening with their own family. Yeah, it depends on where their family is politically. If they lean left, they might still, and their parents like lean right, for example, if they haven't, like cut communication off already. Then they might just save face and pretend and not try to, share that they have any kind of thoughts that deter. Now, the fact that they have to have these collectivism thoughts, like it's all about collectivism with them. Like you can't stray from the groupthink. It just makes me wonder how these people have the gall to say they're alternative or anti-establishment. They have become their own establishment. Do they not see that's a form of conformity? And I've said many, many, many times, any ideology that requires conformity, especially conformity of thought, is antithetical to the freedoms that a subculture like goth requires. Collectivism, you can't be an individual. Even Mom Dami said, they will replace rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. There is no way to be alternative and for collectivism. It's just antithetical, completely antithetical. They try to say you can't be conservative in goth, you can't be conservative in punk, but the thing is that their idea of conservatism is extremely uneducated. They are conflating social conservatism with political conservatism. They are two completely different things. Like, American political conservatism is not the same as, say, any other country. Like, just trying to think of an example here. Like, I would say Japan, for example, is a very conservative country socially. They are very socially conservative. But, government-wise, they are a lot stricter with stuff. They have no guns at all policy. They don't have, any kind of Second Amendment like we do. So in that sense, if you want to consider that to be part of being conservative, that's not conservative. Or any other aspect that they're trying to put. But the thing is that they also try to conflate conservatism with Christian conservatism. They're different things. And it all boils down to the fact that they just hate conservatives. They just hate Republicans. It's all about hate, hate, hate. but yet they accuse their opposition of hate, hate, hate. But you don't see as much burning, passionate hate as you do if you were to bring up Trump in front of a leftist, for example. You will see their blood just boil. You can see it in their face. That's true hate. Words like slurs, they're, not nice, but like, it's not that burning, passionate hate that these people get when you bring up anybody in their opposition. They just despise them with everything in them. And they are almost required to have that kind of reaction because that's the collectivism. That's the mindset of the collectivism. So if anyone on the left thinks like, hey, maybe RFK isn't so bad. Well, RFK is now considered right-wing, although he's actually very moderate. They will never dare stray. Never. And I'm sure there's a lot of them that don't think 100% of the collective, or what the collective thinks, or what their guidelines for thinking are. If you actually find a leftist that you could talk to and have civil discourse with, and usually the only way to do that is if it's one-on-one, offline, or if it's online, that you're known to be the only ones talking, especially where their leftist friends can't see that they dare have a conversation with somebody on the right, because normally they won't have a conversation. They will not participate in civil discourse. They will just name call and shut you down. Because if you have civil discourse, you could change their mind. You have civil discourse, then they might see different perspectives. And it's not that they think that their minds actually could get changed. They see any opposition as evil, as completely wrong. That's why they must suppress the opposition by all costs, by all means. But if you were to talk to a leftist one-on-one, and you actually get that chance to, you can, not all, there's some really, really psychotic ones. You can actually find that some can be reasoned with to understand that, hey, maybe some of these ideas of like collectivism are not so cool. Maybe we shouldn't have males and women's boxing in the Olympics, And I'm just using this as an example because that's a topic that is extremely like the left is not only passionate about, but they have solidified their viewpoint on it. And so when you talk to some, you can say, okay, yeah, we've kind of reasoned that, we don't really think that necessarily, or it might not be the best idea. But they will never say it. They will never say it out loud to anybody else. Because they know, as soon as they stray, it's over for them, socially, or worse. Because it's an all or nothing thing. They say only Siths deal in absolutes. Well, I guess the left is kind of a Sith thing. Although, unfortunately, the Sith is kind of cool. I think they have the best, lightsabers. So I really don't want to, soil and sully the name of Sith Lords with the left. So I was looking at. I saw Jake Monroe is on the Side Scrollers podcast now. He was on there earlier. I don't think he's on there right now. It's like 4 a.m. there. I don't think they're streaming right now. But if there is, cool. Good for him. The thing I hate the most is how aggressive and hateful they are instead of trying to work together. I feel like they spite themselves to spite others even. Yes, they are very, very well known for doing the cut your nose just off to spite your face, they would rather suffer to get at others, to make others pay, than see any kind of reason with that. Because it's all about oppressing the opposition. That's it. That's what it's about. Um, so that statement itself is absolutist. Yeah, they are all about absolutism. They really are. But I really would like to see, and I would say political science professors, but you know how they're all actually in this, and they will never self-reflect and look that this is what it is. And I'm saying this as somebody who, I actually did study political science in college. I didn't finish my degree, unfortunately, but political science was my minor in college. So I've done a lot of study of political science, both academically and independently. And what the left has created is like a pseudo fascist, Marxist ideology. It is definitely something new. It takes elements from both fascism and Marxism. Now, we all are familiar with the left saying that the left is, they're a bunch of commies, they're Marxists. When it comes down to it, a lot of their ideology stems from Marxism. Even KGB or former KGB have even gone on the record and basically given the steps that the left are taking right now when it comes to, revolution and taking down a country and having a Marxist revolution. So you have on record actual KGB saying things like that. Oh, trying to pull this up. I actually love the Sith. The Jedi are the absolutist ones. That line was just Obi-Wan being salty. I love Obi-Wan though. Ewan McGregor specifically. I'm actually a really big fan of Ewan McGregor. I think he's a phenomenal actor, and he can actually sing really well. The movie Moulin Rouge is one of my absolute favorite movies. So I'm a bit biased to Obi-Wan because of that. And he's just a great actor. I hate a major in nutrition and minor psychology. That's still a good thing to have, because a lot of what the left has pushed, including the fat acceptance movement, nutrition can be definitely something that is beneficial in combating a lot of that, because not living in reality, healthy any size is bullwash, because there's a lot of issues that come with like things like obesity and whatnot. And then you get the psychology aspect. So that's actually a pretty good combination to combat things like the fat acceptance movement that the left has pushed now, because there's a psychology aspect to that, and the nutrition thing can definitely back up that. There's no such thing as healthy in any size. Anyway, so what I'm getting at is that, we're not going to be able to rely on academia to properly name what this monster is. They found a way to oust nationalism and replace the proletariat aspect and the autocrat aspect of fascism with this whole oppression totem that they have with identity politics. They've inserted identity politics in the place of the autocracy and the proletariat. As regards to the proletariat that they have implemented, it is oppressor versus oppressed. They will say that Michelle Obama is more oppressed than a poor person in poor white person in like East Tennessee, Appalachia, which is one of the poorest parts of the country. So it's always about the identity for them, because it's also not part of reality. Michelle Obama is a lot more privileged than, your typical like Appalachian, East Tennessee poor person that, legitimately has an issue with poverty. Their skin color doesn't change the fact that, there's some that actually don't have running water there. So let's see. In regards to the way Merriam-Webster defines fascism, though, they have it here. It says broadly, a philosophy or system with some combination of fascist values and governing structures. I would definitely say that forcible suppression of opposition is a fascist value. That is part of the definition. And that is exactly what the left does. They will shut down anybody they disagree with. If you are like protesting, you're kind of protesting, they will try to silence you flat out. You go to their protest, you get up to the mic. I even saw one today where a girl said something they didn't like. They got her off the mic immediately. Like shut up, get off, leave. That's suppression of an opposition in some way. But in the way they do forcefully, all these riots that they do, that's definitely trying to suppress people. Like you have people doing these anti-ICE campaigns so like they're so motivated with this whole anti-ICE charade, I will say, that there's some that are harassing small businesses to denounce ICE. Now, if your business is, not political, like you shouldn't have to. Like there's you shouldn't have to denounce ICE. If you are a mom and pop store, like a little mom and pop thrift store or something, why should you have to denounce ICE? Mom and pop ice cream shops having to denounce ICE. And they are forcibly making people toe the line. And this is also where I get to alternative people saying you cannot be anything but left if you're punk, goth, whatever. Everything I'm describing about is all a form of conformity. Now they're saying, oh, it's because it's not hateful. It's because you're accepting. No, you're hateful. You hate Christians. You hate Caucasians. And you hate capitalism, which I call the Nazis, like NOTCs. They hate Republicans. They hate anybody who does not think like them. That's a lot more people than they claim that, their opposition hates. In fact, as a libertarian, I've been able to make more friends with conservatives than I have with anybody on the left. Not because I'm unwilling. I've actually lost friends who are on the left. I've lost very close, dear friends because they were on the hard left. But I can make friends with conservatives. I can make friends with libertarians, although we go back and forth on what libertarianism actually is. But that's just part of being, libertarians. We hate each other. But, moderates, I get along great with moderates. It's the people who demand conformity of thought are also the same ones saying you can't be conservative and goth. I'm sorry, if you're alternative, you just think for yourself, period. That means you can be conservative. If that's how you think, yeah, you can be conservative and goth. If you think for yourself, you're a libertarian, yes, you can be libertarian and goth, or punk. Punk is just a rejection of everything anyway. That's all punk is. It's not right or left necessarily. Punk is just like a rejection, anarchy, if anything. But I'm just so sick of seeing you can't be conservative and goth whenever that is just, that's forcing a conformity, because they actually don't understand what conservatism is. Their idea of conservatism is just very biased in the fact that they see it as Christian nationalism. They see conservatism as what they see it as, like the church ladies of the 90s. That's not conservatism anymore. It's not. Like, what's his name? Look at Tom McDonald. Would you say he's like the church ladies of the 90s conservative? That guy is like super conservative. Tom McDonald is not like a 90s church lady conservative. And they try to say that, oh, conservatives oppress us. That's why we are how we are. You know, goth was escapism. So if you're saying that it's because you were oppressed by so-and-so, then the subculture was about escapism into the arts, into Gothic literature, the music, mostly the music, especially. And the music was inspired by the arts and the, literature. Escapism. So even if you try to say that it was because, so-and-so was oppressing you, the fact that it's an escapist subculture means it's inherently non-political. And so it just kind of goes all the way back around. Anyway, I love Tom McDonald. Be there for him since he was a nobody. Good. Yeah, I heard his new song. It was kind of catchy. It's also similar to the Brotherhood of Darkness, the Sith. Right before Darth Bane created the rule of two, he saw the rot and how dogmatic and rigid they were and not truly embodying the Sith code. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, so coming to my conclusion, we have about 12 minutes left. And I do want to touch on the Epstein files, just some. There is absolutely no reasoning and justification to say that you cannot be XYZ and be goth or punk. If anything, you cannot be left, like this hard radical left, and be punk or goth, because the hard radical left requires conformity of thought. So are they the ones that are posers? Well, I'm not an asshole, and I'm not going to throw the word poser around because I'm, not in high school anymore. So they are behaving like absolute fascists, and they don't see it. And yet they have these groups like Antifa. Just because you call yourself anti-fascist doesn't mean you're not fascist. Like, one of the rules that we just read of fascism, or one of the descriptors of fascism, is oppressing your suppressing forcefully, suppressing your opposition. What does Antifa do? They show up to things and they try to shut them down. And honestly, everybody who called any of the venues that shut down Brian Groffner's gigs, that's a form of fascism. Because it was like forceful suppression of their opposition, their, threats to venues. That sounds pretty forceful to me. Anyway, it's ironic they use the term solidarity to make a fist, which is a much older idea that predates identity politics. Yeah, and they are stuck on identity politics. Identity politics has stood in for the autocratic or the autocracy part of fascism for them, which, like I said, it's a disgusting monster that the left has created now, of fascism and Marxism coming together to some ugly, blue-haired, septum-pierced monster. Yeah, and it's septum ring theory, okay, not nose ring. All right, septum. All right. So we have about 9 minutes left. Let's go ahead and touch on Epstein. I think everybody got my point on our issue with fascism in this country and the direction it's actually coming from. Definitionally, the fascism is from the left in a pseudo-fascist, pseudo-Marxist monster that they have. It needs a name. It's not going to get a name because academia is left. Academia is that right now, and they will never self-reflect to be able to give a name to whatever this pseudo-fascist Marxist monster that they have created is. So we're just going to have to keep a lookout for that, because every time they try to accuse you of being fascist, they're not going to say anything besides it's right-wing, this or that, because they're just practicing their own version of fascism. All right. Touch on Epstein, but don't touch him, please. Well, ew, disgusting. So, the files have been out, or not all the files. You know, I don't think that they never will give us all the files. If anybody has been going through the files, which I go through them throughout the day randomly, like a name pops into my head or a topic pops into my head. I've been, pulling up the justice.gov/Epstein and trying to see if I can find, a certain person or whatnot. I try to look up the Vegas shooting, Vegas massacre. Can't find anything. And one thing that I myself and others have noticed is the redactions. Now, we expected redactions because, even the most sensible person was like, yes, censor the victims. We don't want the victims, to be outed. It's a sensitive topic for the victims. Yes, please, redact the victims' names. I'm sorry, but the guy that emailed Epstein that said your littlest girl was naughty, like had fun last night, your littlest girl was very naughty, he's not a victim. So why the fuck is his name redacted? They're redacting the perpetrators. Now there's some that, aren't really redacted, like we saw something about Daddy Bush, which was very appalling. Now, granted, all of these are, they're not substantiated, so we can't always say that, yes, these are 100% true, but they're very damning. And from a lot of things that we've seen here in a lot of victim testimony, a lot of it's corroborated. Because he's Mossad. They're trying so hard right now. I'm not sure if y'all have heard this. They're trying so hard right now to connect Epstein with Russia. Like, why would he be communicating with Ehud Barak as much as he did if he worked for Russia? No, because he didn't work for Russia. He worked for another nation, which I'm not gonna name, but we all know the name. But yeah, they're pushing so hard to try to connect Epstein to Russia, and it's insane. So they've not only redacted names of perpetrators, which, the files were supposed to be unredacted, minus the victims' names. So they've already, the DOJ has already fudged up that. But they, let's see. I'm skeptical of some of Epstein's emails. The Tony Hawk wedding thing was debunked, for example. I think Epstein was also trying to smear people he couldn't entrap. Yeah, and some people, well, I don't know if Trump is saying this, but some are saying that that's kind of what he was doing with Trump. According to Trump, Epstein and some guy whose last name is Wolf was trying to ruin his campaign or his election back in 2016, and um, they try to like make stuff up to ruin him. I don't know how true that is. I don't know what all um, is true about what was in there about Trump. But according to Trump, it was more they were emails, even just exonerating him. But I don't know. At this point, I'm not saying I would believe anything, but there was even discussions about pandemics in there, which seemed kind of sus because Epstein died. I'm saying like allegedly died back in what 20 was it 2018 29, I don't know. He passed before COVID, so it doesn't really, I don't know, it just seems sus that we have a pandemic like a couple years or so after Epstein's gone. Yeah, I don't know, it's a little weird. It's more than a little weird. Take anything Trump says with a grain of salt. He's trying to cover his. I know, yeah, I unless it's Thomas Massey, I'm taking anything any politician says with a grain of salt. Rand Paul. I'll take Rand Paul's word. I don't think Dr. Paul would raise a son that would be a POS. So I trust Rand Paul. So Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, those two, I'll take more than a grain of salt with what they say. But anybody in Washington, they get no more than a grain of salt when it comes to what they say, what they push, and everything, because their records don't really show them to be trustworthy. Sorry, not sorry, but you really can't trust anyone in DC, and it's I would say it's sad, but you know what? You should always be critical of your government. That's why protecting the First Amendment is critical and crucial because the left definitely and the right even wants to pass like certain anti-free speech laws, and I know the right will actually deny it. But there was something about can't speak ill of a certain greatest ally, which that's a violation of the First Amendment, like absolutely. Yeah, so they're both guilty of it, absolutely both guilty of it. The left is just a lot more aggressive and broad with the things that they want to censor. Okay, all right, we are in the last 2 minutes now, so want to have a word from our sponsor. Let's have a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor for today, and really all days, is libertariangolf.com, the internet's largest alternative geared Liberty apparel store, with the Thirst Trap calendar available now, out of signed calendars, so apologize for that, but we have the best-selling Cyberbully the Government shirt. It is in women's V-cut, tank top, and regular t-shirt. I have the regular t-shirt. I love it. It's seriously one of my favorites out of my stores that I've gotten. It's also in a zip hoodie. I do have one of the zip hoodies, but I have the one that has let's see, I want to pull the one that I have up. So I wear it all the time and I talk about it. Oh wait, before I do, if you want to get your Valentine's something, you might want to get it ASAP. I hope it will get to you by Valentine's Day. But I do have my Dr. Ron Paul Valentine's card that you can use for Valentine's Day, or you can use it for anniversary, or just because I love you kind of thing. And it says, I love you just as much as I love Ron Paul. And in the inside of it, I think I gotta scroll down and see. And the inside, it says, I do, I swear. And underneath that, in parentheses, not more than, though. So You can tell your sweetheart you love them just as much as you love Ron Paul, but not more than you love Ron Paul. So, uh, if any of my libertarians actually have a sweetheart, then that's a good one. You can definitely get them either for Valentine's Day or for any occasion. But yeah, I was gonna bring up my hoodie that I wear all the time. Why not? Where is it? Just because it's one of my favorites, obviously, because I bought it myself and I wear it. This right here. Liberty and Killdozers. So, a year or two ago, I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe now, had this little, very short-lived feud with Black Rifle Coffee Company, and I wanted to make something that kind of mocked their gear because they haven't really shown themselves to be very Second Amendment, despite their grift. And I showed how beyond pro Second Amendment I am with my own merch saying with liberty and killdozers for all, with the description of a fleece heavy blend zip hoodie with premium metal zipper to show that the Second Amendment shouldn't just stop at what you can hold. We should all be able to get something we can ride. So that's my personal favorite. I wear it all the time. It's very comfy. All right. I do want to thank you all for coming and spending your Friday evening with me. It's always a blast. And check out the store, browse if you're bored. And hope to see you all next week. Have a great and safe weekend. If you are in an area of the country that's cold, please try to stay warm. It's supposed to be a little warm where I'm at this weekend, so I get a little break from the cold. But that's Texas. All right. So I hope you all have a great rest of your night. Stay safe and always lead with kindness, unless they don't deserve it.